All right, so today we're going to be looking at Unit 2, Notes number 1, and we're going to be adding and subtracting polynomials. So today, our goal is that you'll be able to say, I will be able to add and subtract polynomials. Okay, so that's going to be our big goal today, is that we can add and subtract both of those. So remember, a polynomial is like, for example, like 4x squared plus 3x minus 2. So it's a list of terms separated by addition and subtraction signs. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about polynomials. Okay, so just a quick reminder about combining like terms. We've talked about combining like terms when we dealt with solving equations, so very similar. When you combine like terms, really we just ignore the exponents and add the coefficients. Okay, so we're going to be ignoring our exponents and adding the coefficients together. It's pretty much all we do when we combine like terms. And you're going to see that in action in our notes today. So looking at the first one, it says adding polynomials. When we add polynomials, okay, there is one step that we have to do when we add polynomials, and that's just combine like terms. Okay, so that's going to be your one step that you have to follow when we are going to add polynomials. So looking at this, okay, our first problem we have is x squared plus 3 plus 3x squared minus 5. So we're adding, okay? Anytime we say add, or maybe we might ask for the sum, that means you just need to combine like terms. So looking at this, I have an x squared and a 3x squared, and then I have a constant of 3 and a constant of a negative 5. So I always box in my x squareds just to kind of clue in that those are my like terms, okay? Like terms have the same exponent and the same variable. Okay, so 1x squared plus 3x squared gives me 4x squared. 3 plus a negative 5, or 3 minus 5, gives me a negative 2. Okay, so when we classify this, we're going to be classifying based off of the degree, so what the largest exponent is, and the largest exponent is a 2. Okay, so that's going to be quadratic. All right. Looking at number 2, same thing. We have 4x cubed plus 3x squared plus 2 plus 5x cubed minus an x squared. Okay, we are adding, okay, because of the plus sign, we're finding the sum. So we're going to combine like terms. We have 4x cubed and 5x cubed. I have 3x squared and a negative x squared, and then I have a standalone constant of a 2. So we just need to combine like terms. 4x cubed plus 5x cubed gives me 9x cubed. 3x squared minus an x squared gives me plus 2x squared. And then I have that standalone 2. All right. Now classifying that, our largest exponent here is a 3. So that means it's going to be cubic. So when we classify, we're looking at those largest exponents. All right, so that's going to be adding our polynomials, finding the sum. Now when we're subtracting polynomials, this could also be called finding the difference. Okay, so finding the difference and subtracting, those are going to be the same process. So when we're subtracting polynomials, we have now 2 steps. So our first step is going to be distribute the negative 1. And I'm going to talk about what that means once we see a problem. But our step 1 is going to be distribute the negative 1. And then after that, step number 2 is really, it turns into an addition problem because we're going to combine like terms. All right. So looking at our first one, we have x squared plus 3 minus 3x squared minus 5. So our first step, step number 1, says distribute the negative 1. So if we look at this, we don't have anything in front of this set of parentheses up here, but we do have this subtraction sign in front of that set of parentheses. So that's where we're going to write in that negative 1. So really we have a -1 in front of this set of parentheses. And anytime we have a number in front of the parentheses, we have to distribute. So this first set of parentheses stays the same. And we're going to distribute the second set. So -1 times 3 gives me -3x squared. And -1 times a -5 gives me +5. From here, we just need to combine our like terms. So I'll have x squared and then -3x squared. Okay, so 1 minus the 3 gives me -2x squared. And then 3 plus 5 gives me +8. Now, for classifying that, my largest exponent here is a 2. So that is going to be quadratic. All right, and then looking at number 4, we have 4x cubed plus 3x squared plus 2 minus 5x cubed minus an x squared. Step number 1 is we distribute that -1. So we're going to write in that -1 right there. We're finding the difference, so we need to subtract. I'm going to distribute that -1 to the 5 and to the -x squared. This first set doesn't change, so it just stays the same. And now we're going to distribute that negative. So -1 times that 5 gives me -5x cubed. And -1 times a -x squared gives me +x squared. Because a negative times a negative gives me a positive number. So now we've distributed that negative. So step number 2, if you look at your little box, says combine like terms. So we're going to combine our like terms. We have 4x cubed minus 5x cubed will give me -1x cubed. 3x squared plus an x squared gives me +4x squared. And then I still just have this nice little standalone 2. So for classifying this, our largest exponent is a 3. So this is cubic. All right, skipping over to the next page. We have this wonderful triangle problem. So this triangle problem has quite a few steps. Okay, you will see it a lot though. Okay, and we're just kind of looking at how could I find the length of a missing side. So number 5 says if the perimeter of this triangle is 27, so a reminder to find perimeter, we add up all the sides. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for the perimeter. So I know that the perimeter, so all the sides added together gives me 27. So I want to find the length of the missing side. So I'm looking for this side right here. Okay, so to find that, step number 1 is we're going to add up both sides. So we're going to do 7 plus 9. And 7 plus 9 is going to give me 16. So that was step 1. We added up the sides. I'm going to actually write that. So then we have step 2. And if we want this missing side right here, we're going to take our total, which is 27, and subtract the other two sides from it. So we're going to subtract that 16. Okay, so we're going to do 27 minus 16. Well, 27 minus 16 gives me 11. Okay, and that's going to be the length of my missing side. So my missing side over here has to be 11. And what did we do in that step? We subtracted from the total. Okay, so looking at that, we added the two sides and then we subtracted the total. Guess what? Today we are adding polynomials and subtracting polynomials. So we're going to do the same exact problem, same steps, only now we're going to be adding and subtracting. Okay, so if I look at this, or now we're going to be dealing with polynomials. Okay, so it says if the perimeter of the triangle is x squared plus 4x minus 5, so instead of 27, I'm giving you a polynomial, find the length of the missing side. So we're looking for this side right here. Well, step number 1, we added the sides of this problem. So guess what? Step number 1, we're going to add the sides. So I have x squared. Actually, I'm going to write it out. So we're going to have x squared plus 3x minus 1 plus the other side, which is 3x plus 2. Okay, so I'm adding those two sides together. We're going to combine our like terms. So I have 1x squared up front. 3x plus 3x gives me plus 6x. And then negative 1 plus 2 gives me plus 1. So that's step number 1. Add the two sides. Sweet. Step number 2 says subtract from the total. So we're going to subtract that from my total. Okay, so this is going to be step 2. We're going to bring our total down. We're going to have x squared plus 4x minus 5. And then minus my sides that I found. So x squared plus 6x plus 1. Now looking at this, we are using subtraction. So we're going to have to write in that negative 1 up front and we're going to distribute. So this first set doesn't change. And we're going to subtract the second set. So negative 1 times an x squared gives me negative x squared. Negative 1 times 6 gives me negative 6x. And negative 1 times 1 gives me negative 1. Okay, so from here, we just can combine like terms. So I have an x squared minus an x squared. Guys, if I have an x squared and I take it away, I have nothing left. They cancel out, so those are going to be gone. 4x minus 6x gives me negative 2x. And then negative 1 minus 1 gives me negative 6. So that's going to be my final answer. So that's the length of the missing side. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop there for today. We're not going to worry about number 7, okay? If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, you can move on to your assignment.